Welcome to Echoes of Time, a journey into the forgotten worlds and the secrets they left behind.
All right, so you've got this perfectly planned heist, right? A massive fortune in cash, a getaway that was this close to working. So what brought it all down? Well, it was one careless whisper and, believe it or not, a game of Monopoly. Today, we're diving deep into the legendary Great Train Robbery.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's August 8th, 1963. A high-security Royal Mail train is just cutting through the dark British countryside. And then, all of a sudden, a red signal completely out of nowhere forces it to a screeching halt. Now, this wasn't just some random stop. Oh no, this is exactly where our story kicks off.
You see, this train was basically a vault on wheels, and its cargo, a mind-boggling amount of untraceable cash. So yeah, that stop was no accident. It was a perfectly timed, carefully planned ambush. A whole gang of thieves was just waiting in the shadows for this exact moment to pounce.
So this wasn't just some smash and grab job. No, this was a masterpiece of criminal planning, and it was all built on two absolutely golden pieces of inside information. Tips so good, they made this whole wild idea possible.
So, the guy pulling the strings was Bruce Reynolds, a pretty big name in the London underworld. But he had a secret weapon, you could say. An insider, known only by the code name the Ulsterman, who was actually part of the Royal Mail security team. With that intel, Reynolds put together a 16-man dream team, combining his own guys with another crew that knew everything there was to know about train.
And what were they after? The HVP coach. HVP stands for High Value Packages, and you can think of it as a literal bank vault on wheels. It was always the second car right behind the engine, and it was basically the cash pipeline that connected all these regional post offices with London.
Now that tip from the insider, it was an absolute game changer. First off, he told them that the usual high-tech coach was in for repairs. The replacement? An old model with no alarm. And second, because of a recent bank holiday, the train was carrying way more cash than usual, like 10 times the normal amount. It was literally the perfect storm, a once-in-a-lifetime shot, and they knew it.
So, armed with this incredible inside info, the gang was ready to go. And as night fell, they kicked off what would become one of the boldest, most audacious heists of the entire century.
And man, their execution was just brutal and efficient. At 3:05 a.m., they ambushed the train crew. Within a few short minutes, they've stormed the engine, they've attacked the driver, Jack Mills, and they've uncoupled the carriages they wanted. It was just a stunning, terrifying display of clockwork precision.
But then, they hit their first major snag, a huge flaw in their plan. You see, the guy they brought in to drive the train, a retired expert on the old steam engines, took one look at the controls of this modern locomotive and was totally baffled. The whole thing was completely alien to him. The train wasn't moving an inch.
So, in this moment of pure panic, they had to improvise. They had to wake up the actual driver, Jack Mills, the very guy they had just knocked out. And they forced this poor, dazed, and injured man to get back in the driver's seat and move his own hijacked engine down the track to a place called Brideau Bridge. That's where the rest of the crew was waiting.
Okay, so once they get to Brideau Bridge, the real action starts. The gang swarms the HVP coach, and in this crazy frenzy, they form a human chain. They start passing down these mailbags one by one. 120 of them, every single one packed with cash, down to the truck they had waiting. And the weight of all that money? It was just staggering. We're talking over 2.5 tons of cash. They were actually running out of time, so much so that they had to leave 8 bags behind. Can you even imagine that? Leaving a fortune behind because you've already stolen too much to carry? So the gang did it. They pulled it off. They had the money and they just melted away into the night. It looked like the perfect crime, but right in that moment of victory, one single careless comment would kickstart a chain reaction that was going to bring the whole thing crashing down around them.
As the last guy was leaving, he turns to the postal workers they'd tied up and gives them this warning. He thought he was being clever, buying the gang more time to get away. But what he was actually doing was handing the police their very first and most crucial clue.
And that one little sentence? It was an absolute gift for the police. The second the postal staff got free, they told the investigators exactly what the robber said. The cops did some quick math on travel times, and just like that, they had a perfect 50-kilometer search radius to look for the hideout. The net was already tightening.
And that search radius?
It led the police right to a quiet, secluded farmhouse. And what they found inside? Well, it was another blunder. This one born from total overconfidence and, of all things, a board game. And it was this mistake that was going to seal their fate for good. So the gang was hiding out at a place called Leather Slade Farm, smack dab in the middle of that police search area. And while they're listening to the police chatter on the radio, they're divvying up all the cash. And then, in what has to be the most ironic move ever, they start playing a game of Monopoly with the real stolen money. Now, the original plan was to have a guy come in and burn the whole farmhouse down. Get rid of all the evidence. But then they heard on the radio that the cops were getting close, so they panicked and took off early. The cleaner they hired to do the job, he just pocketed the money and left, never lit a single match. And that's when a neighbor who thought something was fishy called the police. When the police got to the farmhouse, it was an absolute treasure trove of evidence. They found the empty mailbags, the truck they'd used, tons of supplies. The gang thought they'd been so careful, wiping down every single surface for fingerprints. But they forgot one tiny thing: the Monopoly board.
And those fingerprints? That was the smoking gun. See, most of these guys were career criminals, so their prints were already in the police database. Scotland Yard ran the prints from the game, and boom, they got direct matches. They could now tie specific people directly to that farmhouse and that crime.
Once they found the hideout and had that fingerprint evidence, well, the game was officially up. The police net closed in fast, arrests were made, heavy sentences were handed down, but the story doesn't quite end there. There's a really tragic side to all of this. So over the next few days and weeks, it was like watching dominoes fall. One by one, they were caught. Out of the whole 16-man crew, the police managed to catch 14 of them. In the end, only 2 guys ever really got away with it. And the consequences were huge. Most of the gang got slapped with 30-year prison sentences. But the real tragedy here, I think, is what happened to Jack Mills, the driver. The poor guy never truly recovered from the attack, neither physically nor mentally. He passed away just 7 years later. And the one person who made it all happen, the inside man, he was a ghost, vanished completely.
So, in the end, this crime of incredible ambition, this near-perfect heist, was brought down by one dumb mistake and a board game. But even though the robbers paid a heavy price, the mastermind who gave them the keys to the kingdom was never, ever caught. And his identity, well, that remains the biggest, most tantalizing mystery of the Great Train Robbery.
This was Echoes of Time. If you love powerful history stories, subscribe and continue the journey with us.